Okay, I have 6:30. I will call our emergency meeting of December 1st to order. And I move that we approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. All right, we'll move right on to our action item. Mr. Horton, would you like to take over for the learning module discussion?
Thank you very much. Members of the board, thank you very much for joining me. Members of the community, thank you very much for joining us for this board meeting. We continue to discuss COVID-19 and how to best meet the needs of our learners in the midst of this global pandemic. First off, again, a huge thank you to everybody who's been here to help keep us in-person learning for so long. We are one of the few outliers in the state now for K-12 in-person learning. That's pretty amazing. And we've done so by keeping our numbers low. And we continue to have low numbers in our school. We have seen some high quarantines, but we are still in the single digits at each of our buildings. And a big thanks to the staff for helping make that happen and the students for making that happen. So that's great. At our last board meeting, we said we were going to continue to watch the data and call meetings as needed. We have watched the data over the last week, and we've continued to work with the regional support team. And we also took away from the last board meeting that there was more work that we needed to do to determine how we can best meet the needs of our community, our staff, our students, to keep learning going and balance that with the global pandemic that's happening. And so tonight, I want to give you an update on some of the data and also share some of the work that we've done in preparation for this meeting so we could get some guidance from you. The first thing I want to share is just 4-week trend data for each of the 4 counties that we serve. Over the last 4 weeks in Renville, we've seen numbers climb from 30, we've seen their 14-day case rate go from 35 to 65 to 103 to 178 as of last Thursday. We are projecting a 224 in Renville County for this upcoming week, and we're projecting about 262 a couple weeks out, a week to 2 weeks out. Last 4 weeks in Sibley County, case rates of 22, 42, 103, then 188 last week, and we're looking at 214 coming up this week. And we're projecting a dip of down to about 150 in Sibley County this in about a week or two. For McLeod County, they went from 18 to 42 to 119. Last week, 231, and they're looking at possibly around 254 for this upcoming week. For Nicollet County, 35, 48, 87, 132 last week. I don't have their projections at this time. Some other information is there is locally is expected to level off just a little bit and even dip when you watch the numbers. So you may see a little dip, and then they're anticipating another spike right now. So when we see Sibley County numbers, for example, we'll see that 150. That is not a trend that they expect to continue. They're expecting that to spike back up. Currently, there is a logjam of close contact tracking across the state. Currently, the Minnesota Department of Health is not able to reach out to 70% of people who need to be a close contact. They are relying on schools to do some of that work, and we've done some of that work, and that's been really helpful for us to track that data locally. But they are challenged to do all the contact tracing they need to do. I share that with you tonight just to kind of share that while they're eventually going to get a letter to that person, there might be a delay in the amount of time that somebody might get that information to know that they're a close contact, and that could in turn could result in more potential exposures. Right now, the positivity testing rate locally is around 17%. So out of 100 people who get tested, 17 are testing positive. As I said, in our school, our numbers are continuing to stay low for active positive cases, but we're seeing large amounts of quarantines. I looked at today's attendance, and on today's attendance at our high school level, we had 43% of our seniors out. We had about 24% of our juniors out, about 22% of our sophomores, and 30% of our freshmen. So while we're not seeing high active positive cases, we are seeing more distance learning and quarantines, particularly at that high school level. So that is some of the data background. We met with the regional support team today, and we ran through some different models and asked them for some feedback. And there was not general consensus around a particular model, but there was general consensus that we need to look at something different. We do need to make an adjustment. We need to turn that dial. We've been working to kind of figure out what those dial turns could be, and that's what I want to share with you right now. So I'm going to run through 5 different options with you, and I'll share a little bit about each of them, and I can also answer questions about each of those. The first option would be to go to distance learning pre-K-12. Everyone goes to distance learning. That would be one option. If we go to distance learning, we would have to provide childcare for grades K through 5. We would have to do food delivery, and we'd have to manage that piece, and our teachers would need to transition to distance learning. A second option, which is a new option that we were just able to come up with thanks to the hard work of Principal Thompson and our early childhood coordinator, we were able to explore a pre-K-5 model. At our last board meeting, we talked about a pre-K-3 model. At that time, we were not able to figure out how to keep the 4th and 5th grades over at the Gibbon building. Since then, they have come up with some very creative answers on how we can do that in a student-friendly way and a staff-friendly way to not have to move those. So instead of a pre-K-3 model, I'm recommending a possible pre-K-5 model. What that would do is we would add a staff member, teacher, or para to each class. We would divide them in half, so we would have roughly classes of 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. And then there would also be the distance learners. One option for delivering instruction that teachers would have is they could do synchronous learning. So they are teaching the class from where they are. The following, the other class in a different part of the building could cue in through technology. And then the distance learners could all do that at the same time. So it could make that more efficient for some lessons. Synchronous learning doesn't work for all situations, but in some situations it can be very effective. The second model would be a pre-K-8 model. In the pre-K-8 model, everything at pre-K-5 would stay the same. At the junior senior high school, this was kind of exciting that we just found out we actually were able to open up 7 more classrooms than we had anticipated because we did not need to move the 4th and 5th grade over. That saves our teachers a lot of stress, a lot of moving. It becomes easier to shift in and out of models by doing this, so that was really exciting. Basically the same concept applied over at Gibbon would be applied at Winthrop. So in grades 6, 7, and 8, we would use our paraprofessionals and staff to really divide out our classes into 2. And we'd follow that same type of model. We have developed a schedule, and we have been able to assign paraprofessionals to teachers so paraprofessionals would not have to work with lots of different teachers. We tried to simplify that so they could be with just 1 teacher or maybe 2 teachers. We identified common prep time so the paraprofessionals could be available to those teachers during that prep time in order to be supported and to understand what it is they need to do to support our students when they're in that other section. We do want to rotate students between the teacher and the para, so you not always be with the para. Our initial thought right now, and it still needs a little bit more work, but we were thinking about 1 week with the teacher and then you flip and would be with the paraprofessional and then flip again. The reason for 1 week is because we are trying to limit exposures to our staff and keep our staff healthy. If there's a positive case of COVID-19 or symptoms, we have to backtrack 2 days in our contact tracing. So if we make a change on a Monday and somebody tests positive, we count back to Saturday, for example. But if we alternated, let's say every other day, going to teacher para, and somebody tested positive on a Saturday, if we go back 2 days, that would be that would be the person on Friday and the person on Thursday. So both the paraprofessional and the teacher might have been exposed and may have to quarantine. So we think this is a way to help support our staff stay healthy, also help us to keep our teachers here. In the pre-K5 and the pre-K8 model, like I said, those grades would be in person. The ones I did not mention would go to distance learning. So in the pre-K8 model, 9-12 would go to distance learning. In the pre-K5 model, 6 through 12 would be in distance learning. Another option would be to go to an AB day model. This would be a pre-K12 model of going every other day. So you've seen this in other districts where space has been an issue. So on A day, half the students come, on B day, the other half of students come. In this model, we would need to provide childcare, and we would need to provide food delivery to those students who are not in school for the day. The other option would be no change at all. We continue to move with the status quo of what we are doing, and keep monitoring the data. Members of the board, those are the 5 options I have for you tonight. I welcome any comments, discussions, questions, and please let me know how I can support you.
Okay, I'll open up the floor to anybody who'd like to ask questions or make comments.
Superintendent Horton, in the distance learning 9 through 12, do those students get food delivered to them?
Yes, we would want to find a way to do food delivery for our 9 through 12 graders. I think that could come in a variety of ways. It could be sent home with younger siblings who are here at the building. It could be done through a drop-off location. The leading concept that we've had is that we would do all the meals at one time. So instead of doing like a delivery every day, it would just be one delivery. You get your breakfast and lunch for the full week. So you wouldn't have to do multiple trips. Some families, transportation has been an issue, and we have noticed that. We have a very low number of people taking advantage of the free food we're offering right now who are not at school. So that is a concern that we have.
With the A-B model, it looks like a lot of people that are currently quarantined are 9th through 12th graders. Was the regional support team in favor of A and B model?
The major goal of the regional support team was to thin out our numbers. I think all of those except for no change would do that, and the regional support team would support the thinning out of numbers. Specifically to the high school, we did have a conversation this afternoon. I shared our numbers, and actually when we found out that we did not have to move the 4th and 5th grade over, Principal Gleck and I talked with the regional support team to get some feedback on what they thought. We thought, maybe we don't even have to do an 8A, B day model. Maybe we can just do that like with the high school age students, or maybe we could just maybe we could open up more learning pods. And so we explored a lot of different options with them. And at the end, they did not feel that we are at a point right now with everything going on in the community that we should be having high school students in. The community spread is really high. And in particular, we've seen more things happening at the high school age level in terms of transmission. They're also a little bit more mobile, and so they may be getting together outside school. So at this time, they were saying they would not recommend doing that. However, they did say that this could be something that gets reevaluated after winter break to see where we are. I think in our old model of the pre-K3 and then the pre-K8 by moving 4th and 5th, transitions would have been very hard because we have to move student desks or materials, teacher materials. I think now we have a lot more flexibility to turn that dial and do that comfortably versus what we were looking at even earlier today, which was really exciting. And again, huge shout out Principal Thompson. She's in the meeting right now. Thank you for being a part of that and working through that with Ms. Shiro. Really appreciate that.
Jeff,
Okay.
can you hear me?
I can.
Jeff, oh, good. I'm in favor of the A-B model. I think it's important, especially with the lower numbers that we have with people quarantining. We're not going to have a problem with that. But I think student-teacher contact is important for every grade level, not just the little kids. I mean, And a lot of these students, they're seniors and juniors, they're going to be graduating this year. I'm just afraid if we go to all distance learning, there's going to be some that get left behind and they're not going to be prepared for what happens next, whether it's be getting a job or moving on to school or whatever. I think going to the AB model thins out the amount of people in the classrooms. We've got the space to do it. I think that would be the best model to approach.
I guess I personally favor the pre-K through 8th model, since we are seeing most of the cases in the high school. And I think that those age groups are able to handle the 9th through 12th distance learning better than the pre-K through 8th. I worry about kids home alone that shouldn't be home alone. I worry about the daycares. How are they going to do distance learning with these younger kids? Are parents going to have to do it at home when they're done with work? I guess looking at our number of cases, I think a pre-K through 8th model would work best. We are still keeping as many kids as we can in person learning. I feel bad because 9th through 12th has to distance learn, but I really do feel they can handle it better. And especially too, if the regional support team doesn't exactly agree with the AB model, how long can we sustain that?
I think you both bring up some very valid points, and I think that's what we've been wrestling with this whole time too, is how do you weigh something against another? And it's hard. And the regional support team even said that we are just not in a good position right now. Principal Glecka, you might have a better recollection of this than me. I can't remember the exact words, but they just said, we are just not comfortable right now. And it wasn't even about us. It was just in general about what they're able to sustain across the state in terms of giving us good information. They're feeling like they're just way behind, and that it might be things might be worse than what they appear, was kind of how they were feeling. Principal Glecka, was there anything from that meeting that you can recall specific to that?
No, I think that was the main gist of it. I think that just keeping in mind that, and I look at Bailey on here, it's like we don't want to send our juniors and seniors out. We want them close and in school. We want all of our students there. But after talking to the team this afternoon, and really honestly spending a lot of time looking at these models, unfortunately, I think it is best that we distance learn at our high school level, just until we can get more control over this right now.
So
does that mean 2 weeks till Christmas, or does that mean January, or does it mean next September?
I don't have an answer. I don't have a great answer for that. I think it can be reevaluated. Right. I think we can look at it at the start of January. I think it could be revisited. That's about a month away right now. A lot can happen in a month. Things could get a lot better. From a numbers standpoint, I look at this as a proactive move. Our local numbers are really good, but we are seeing just really wide community spread, and I can't believe we've been talking about numbers in above 250. I did not anticipate us having a conversation about that high of a number ever. So I think we're making this move proactively with these numbers. If things settle a little bit, we were doing our current model when numbers were, I don't want to set a threshold, so this is not an accountability number, but we were in person in the hundreds. Is that something we can do in the future if our numbers stay low? Possibly, but I don't have a specific date on that. I wish I did, but I think we can revisit it as soon as January 4th for a possible transition back.
If we kept pre-K through 8th in person and our numbers stayed low, would that help us then get the high school back sooner than later? Because we'd have the local school data, or no?
I think we could make a case for it. I think we'd have some good data there. I think to one of the points made at our last board meeting, we can definitely make an emphasis to track this with our families and communities. That can be a point of emphasis for us to try to do that. I don't know what our success rate will be. I can't guarantee that, but we can try and make that a priority point. I do think
I'm just nervous. We go ahead and go to distance learning. The regional support team is not going to recommend going back until the numbers drop dramatically. I mean, that's what we've been getting from them. And I'm not sure in our situation with the numbers in school that we've got justify going to distance learning.
I guess myself, I'd side more with Marissa and say keep P through 8 going and keep as many kids as you can.
And the AB model would accomplish that. That would keep all of them in school.
Well, you're going to get every other day with an AB model, which you're going to get through half of what these kids need to get through.
And I still worry that kids are going to be home alone that shouldn't be home alone because parents don't have options. It's a problem. I mean, most of their backup daycare is grandparents and they're the high risk group. So I don't know.
I have a question that's a little bit outside of all of this, but if we put 9th through 12th graders to distance learning and the Minnesota High School League says that sports can start up again, I'm assuming that won't happen, but if it would, what happens if our students are distance learning?
Well, there's an interesting data point that goes with that too. It's interesting how when sports ended, we lost a lot of people to distance learning. I think sports were keeping some people in school, and then they moved to distance learning. So that is interesting. This would be a proactive move, is what we're doing. We are saying that we're going to do this even though our numbers are low. I believe that if the board does choose to move to to dial turn the dial back a little bit, we can definitely say that this is part of a proactive move, which opens the door for athletics if that option becomes available, or at least for us to have that discussion to determine what we want to do.
Can you do athletics if you're on distance learning?
You can, if in a situation like ours where we're seeing like low numbers in the school and stuff. If it's a proactive move to distance learning, yes, you can do that. So we'd have to see where we are when that turns back on, whether that's the 18th or January, but it does leave the door open, yes. One thing we could look at when we come back is if we right now the regional support team has said, let's turn the dial back. Their recommendation was to do that and go to distance learning in the high school. We do have a couple things that we could work on, and Principal Gleck and I would need some time to work out these details. We started today, but honestly, as we tried to work through it fast, it just wasn't done to the quality level that we really wanted it to. But we could turn the dial back by going to an A-Day, B-Day at the secondary level. So even if we don't go everybody back right away, we could go to an A-Day, B-Day model to bring people back. Or we also were trying to run the numbers to say, what if we get class sizes down to 10 and we have more learning pods, but are capped at like 10 students, 12 students? That could be a way to help bring them back, even if numbers are still high. So there is some room, I think, for some future conversation there, if we would want to have it.
If we make a change tonight, when does this start?
I would suggest that I think we need a little bit of transition time. Because we no longer need to move buildings, we have 3 days left in the bank to use for transitioning of learning models, to shut down, to transition, or to improve our learning model. We just took 2. Given that we don't have to switch sites, I believe that we can probably not take a day at this point. I think that we could still keep those 3 days to help us transition back at a later time or make different adjustments. And I think not knowing what spring is going to bring, I think that it'll be helpful to keep those with us. We have an early release day on Friday as part of our every Friday early releases. There will be some opportunities there to make adjustments and to do the things we need to do.
So then it would start next Monday?
That's what I would suggest is next Monday, yeah. If we did go distance learning with everyone 612 or 912, we would need time to get people Chromebooks. We would need time to get them their supplies, anything that they may need. One thing that we worked hard. We really were trying to figure out how to keep high school students included in this. We have what's called an MTSS team at our secondary, and Principal Glecka, maybe you would like to share what that team does and what they could maybe do for distance learning. If we at the secondary, if it's whether it's 612 or 912.
Sure. So our MTSS team stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, and that is where we go through all sorts of data points with our students and can identify students based on very specific needs or demographics, and we can use that information to dial down a group of students that we might want to pull into the school for extra support, or just identify specific needs with the students to get them, like I said, into the school building for extra time, or identify them distantly and provide extra support through maybe one-on-one time or scheduled appointments, office hours with our teachers, or paras checking in on them. There's lots of different options with students that are identified via the MTSS team.
What sort of success have you had with it so far? Has it been working with the distance learners?
The MTSS team this year is new, so we are making sure that we have plenty of data points. We have identified through our PLC process, so each teacher is on a PLC team, and at that level, they've identified different students to help with their with the distance learning. A lot of it right now is just making sure that our teachers are, able to give us attendance lessons, or attendance data points, different contact information. So we're working at that through that level, and as we gather more information at the MTSS level, we try to make and support our students that way as well.
So would students on IEPs be able to come every day if they were 9th through 12th, or no?
We've talked with Mr. Hazen from Riverbend, who is our special education director, about this and what other districts are doing. What we would recommend is, if we have distance learners, that they would follow their normal schedule. So from 8:48 to 9:33, they would still have first hour, whether they're in distance learning or in person. So they have to be available and accessible to do learning during that time. And then at 9:37 to 10:22, they would then move on to the next period, and that they would be with that next teacher. Because we have some teachers who move in between grade levels. The students who are receiving special education services would be, there's an MTSS team which works more with the general education students, and we also have what's called a child study team, which works more with the special education students and identifying their needs. They would provide recommendations based off student needs. So not every student who's on an individual education plan may need to come, but some might. Students who are on a 504 plan who might need extra accommodations may get an opportunity to come to school. English language learners, the guidance allows for us to do that. Any students who are at risk, and that can be defined by a lot of different variables, and the team would have to figure out, where to prioritize that and who to bring in. So there is flexibility to continue to bring people. If we do run the pre-K-8 model, or the AB day model, we would run our normal routes every day. Maybe in the pre-K-5 too. I think we would probably run well, I'd have to double check that one. They may not be full routes there, but so students who need transportation could access transportation to get to school.
And if we did distance learning for 9th through 12th, would these distance learners, it would be like a live feed into the classrooms, it would be live teaching, or it's a bunch of videos?
Do you want to take that one, Principal Glecka, or do you want me to?
I can take it. Excuse me. I can take it. I give that freedom up to my teachers. I truly believe that they know what's best for their students. I think that with the with our high school classes, that I think that they would probably do a combination of both. Teach generally as a live stream so that they can get their content, and then do some videos to help support their students at a reteaching level, or like we talked in the beginning of the school year, maybe they would do some more of that flipped instruction so that they can use the live time with their students, because students are still required to check into their classrooms or their classes at the beginning of each hour. That time could be used for support with assignments, homework, that type of thing, so that the instruction might come more at that video. But I trust my teachers to make sure that they have sound instruction.
This question is for Bailey. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Have you experienced distance learning from your grade level at all yet this year, Bailey?
No, you don't worry about putting me on the spot. And I have not experienced distance learning yet this year, but last year I did. And I would agree with Mrs. Goletka about how the teachers would probably go about half and half with videos and with live stream. And honestly, I thought it was a good mix that we had last year. Of course, I'd rather be in school, but it was a good mix to see. Most teachers had a Google Meet or a Zoom once in a while or once every couple of days. And then other teachers had videos, and it was just a good mix to be able to do things at your own pace and then also be with the class.
Thank you.
One thing that I shared this with the regional, or not the incident command team earlier today, just kind of where I start from, just to kind of give you an idea of what the state has asked me to do. They have asked superintendents to prioritize early learning. And so that is something that we've looked at in our models. And so you may see there's a lot of options for keeping the early child, the younger students here. And so that is why that it's been that way, because they want us to prioritize the early learners. I don't think that we can forget about the secondary students though. And I think you make a great point about we needing to make sure that they're prepared. And I think we have to make sure we're doing a great job. So whatever we choose to do, we definitely need to stay focused on those students who are earning credits. And we got to make sure they're not falling behind in credits and that their grades are staying up and they're passing courses. But you will notice that, and that is kind of why that is. So I thought that would be important to point out.
Mr. Horton, I have a question for you. A few kids in my grade, or I guess several kids in my grade, have asked about college classes and coming in for exams. It's mostly been kids from college algebra, but the question came up with, would kids be able to come in and take an exam if they had to do it during distance learning, or would it all be distance? Because it kind of gets complicated, especially in college algebra with the calculator that you need and so forth.
Thank you. That is a great question. I'm going to broaden it a little bit and I'll bring it back to algebra. I did meet with the regional support team about this, and I was in a conversation with Deputy Commissioner Mueller about this, and they did say for courses where you had special certifications that were needed, there would be some flexibility to come in and have those students attend to do certain things. So I did meet with our ag teacher, our technology teacher, music and choir to talk about what were their needs and would they want to have students come in at certain times. The general consensus at this time is that because that people are looking at this as, is this a 2-week thing or until the end of the semester thing? Let's not do too much of that in the short term. If there's some things needed, they could come in. So for example, there's a prerequisite for welding, for one of the welding classes. And so if they could, some students could come in and make sure they get that prerequisite met so they could attend that second semester class, we could have them come in. So we could look at the specifics of that algebra class and say, if this isn't something that can be done distance, we could work out a way to work on that. We have been told that the schools should not be offering the ACT. As of right now, we still have to take the MCAs. We're in transition at the U.S. Department of Education. They have gone silent. And I think they're waiting for that transition to happen so we can get some guidance. We don't know if the new administration will require us. It's a federal thing under ESSA. So we're not sure where that's going to go. So there's some testing that is right now being waived. MCAs are not one of them. So.
Can I jump back in and just clarify that students will have live contact with their teachers every day? As far as their instruction, that might look different, whether it's a live feed daily of actual instruction or their instruction via videos, but they will have contact with their teacher every single day during their class period.
Well, obviously, it sounds like we need to do something. I think keeping it how it is, it doesn't sound like we're getting much regional support for that. I really truly believe keeping as many kids in school as possible. So I guess my vote at this time would be the pre-K through 8 model, 9th through 12th distance learning, and hopefully after Christmas in January, we can get the 9th through 12th grade back in more. That's my vote.
I just think it's important that all kids should have student teacher contact, at least even if it's only 2 days a week. It's better than going to distance learning.
And I understand that, but it sounds like most of our 9th through 12th, or half of them are quarantined anyways. And it doesn't sound like we're getting much support on that from the regional support.
If they're out full time, it's only going to get worse. Kids being kids, if they have to be in school, at least there's 8 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours of the day where they're not running around meeting with large groups where they're not supposed to be. And I mean, I think if we go to distance learning, the community spread through the senior high is only going to get worse because they won't follow the social distancing guidelines like they should.
How does everybody feel about coming back, say, at the end of December, to look at the numbers again and see how we can readjust it if we decide to go one of these models and step it down here tonight?
I'm fine with meeting.
I think we have to come back at a certain point and decide, if we can make changes and go back to the way we are now, or what they allow us to do. I don't really see it happening until January, but I guess
looking at the calendar, kids will be out as of the 22nd, or if we decide to cut it off on the 18th, and then they'll be back. The first day of school is supposed to be on the 4th again. We could meet as a board to look at the numbers and crunch them again and have another idea on what to do on the 4th. If we did something, it'd be 30th or so, we'd have another 4 weeks of numbers and to see what is happening out there.
I think that's fine.
One thing I would like to share is that, I think the regional support team has been really helpful actually in trying to be collaborative. They definitely come from a public health position, and it leads to great discussion because we talk about, from an education perspective, this is what we're seeing from a public health area, and it really does become a collaborative process. And so I do think that if we do have a conversation to come back, they're going to be collaborative, and I do believe they want kids in school if we can make that happen in a safe way. So I do think that they would be collaborative in going through that process with us. And trying to do that. And I think that they've, in taking some direction and from our last meeting and some of the changes we've been able to make between that meeting and this meeting, I know that they're in support of, some of our models, and even said that these are, I'm not trying to push one model or another, but when we mentioned the pre-K 8 model, both our regional support team and the one that serves Renville County had noted that this is kind of like the ideal. Like, if you can make that happen, like, this is like what we wish everybody could do. And if you can make that happen, that's amazing. Which I thought was pretty cool that they said that. So that was not a response I was expecting. So I think through our extra work and through our decision-making process, we've come to potentially some better options for our community with what we have for you tonight to pick between.
I like the pre-K through 8 model.
I guess I prefer that too. Keep as many as we can in the school.
If somebody would like to make a motion, I'm more than willing to hear the motions.
I'll make a motion to go to pre-K through 8 in person and 9 through 12, the distance learning, at least through December.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for the pre-K through 8 in our school all day. And then the distance learning for the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Chair
Yes.
Klink, can I share
Yep,
something?
it's now discussion time, correct. Go ahead.
Wonderful, thank you. Something to consider is that we may want to talk about this as a proactive move in our resolution about how we're doing this proactively to address the sports issue, so we can come back and have that conversation later. And if you did want to put a review date on there of the week before, Julie, I'm looking at your name right now. I don't want to misstep here, but I think we can meet over winter break. If you did want to set a review date or anything, we could look at that at this time as part of that resolution.
I have
Okay.
a question as well.
Oh, go ahead, Bailey.
So how much power does the regional health have in determining if we can come back or not later on?
I think what they help us do is they help us understand the data and the numbers and help us come up with options. I think they're really I think they are trying to be collaborative. I truly do. And I think that they have helped guide us to these options, which are, I think, more than we originally thought that we might be able to accomplish. So
Okay.
I think their role there is partnership and collaboration.
But the role also is carrot and a stick. And so far from the regional support team, we've been seeing a lot more stick than we have carrot. I'm not so sure they have our best interest and our students' best interest at heart. They're getting word down from above that we need to shut down, and that's the move that they're pushing.
Like Mike said earlier, he is nervous that we're not going to be able to come back or we'll be online for a while. And I really, really hope that that would not be the case. I guess nobody really knows that answer, but hopefully that won't happen.
I don't think anybody knows the exact answer for that yet, Bailey. However, from what I'm hearing from the rest of the board, we would love to have all students every day in our school buildings.
Of course.
That is our goal.
I think you could even start out the resolution by saying that as a board, we are committed to finding ways to help students have access to education to the maximum extent possible. But at this time, blank, blank, and blank. That could be something you add in there to make a statement.
Becky, does that sound like what you wanted to say for your?
Yeah, I want to say it just like that. But then also put in there that I want to make a motion that we want to have all the students in person, but it's not where we're at right now. As a proactive move, I would like to make the motion to have pre-K through 8 in person and 9th through 12th in distance learning, and review it again at the end of December.
I don't know if that's exactly the wording we want to use, because if all of a sudden the numbers don't come down, we've locked ourselves into distance learning. You're saying with the numbers where they are now. If the numbers don't come down, we're precluded then. Well, you already said you weren't going to do it. So, I mean, I'd be real careful about referencing numbers in the motion.
Okay. Let's try it again. Okay. With the best interests of the kids in our heart, we would like to change our learning model from pre-K through 8 9th through 12th in distance learning, or pre-K through 8 in person, 9th through 12th in distance learning. We are doing this as a precaution.
I like that better.
Review it again in December, at the end of December.
I'll second that.
I take it you rescinded your first motion, is that correct?
Yeah, the first and the second one.
We only have one motion on our floor now at this point in
Okay,
time.
thank you.
And it has been seconded, and we can have discussion. I would suggest the 30th of December, if we just schedule that now to come back and look at that as a board.
That's fine.
If
with me.
Mr. Horton can get that put in for our calendar, that'd be great. And if he wants to do
If
the.
somebody happens to be gone, if somebody's gone, Phil, can we do that on
We
Zoom
can
then
do
too?
this. Yep, we can do it as a Zoom. So if you're sitting on the beach somewhere, or if you're ice fishing in the middle of lake somewhere.
There you
if
go.
that's what you choose to do, Jason.
It's around the holidays.
Yep, it is. But
We can set that up.
If I would suggest that as our date to look at this. Hearing none, I'll call a vote, and I think we need to do a roll call on this so that I make sure I hear everybody properly.
Yep.
I'm seeing Jason on my center screen here to start with. So Jason?
I missed half of what
Jason,
you
is that a
said.
yay or nay? Okay. I'm
For
gonna do a
that
roll call.
motion
vote.
that we just made?
Yep, for the motion that's on the floor right now, that's been seconded.
Yes.
Okay. Becky,
Yes.
Yes.
Marissa,
Yes.
Mike,
No, I don't think it's the best option.
and I am gonna vote yes also. The yes have it, so we have direction here for you, for Mr. Horton, to get our schools for the option number 3, which is pre-K through 8 in school, and 9, 10, 11, and 12 will be at distance learning. And re-looking at this on the 30th of December. Any further information for us, Mr. Horton?
I just want to confirm that that would be a change for Monday. Does that work?
As long as you can get it done for the school, we want the least amount of disruption for our students.
We will work for a change on December 7th when we come back.
Is there any other further business? We have nothing else on our agenda.
One thing I can share too in closing is just, Member Kuhn, I will make sure that I am working regularly with the regional support team to develop options on how we can do that. And Ms. Peterson, to you as well, we will do everything we can to bring you back as quickly as we can in a safe way. And I'm committed to doing that, and I'll work really hard at that. And thank you to the whole board for all of your conversations. I think we're in a better place with our models right now than we had a week ago to offer you. So thank you for that. And thanks for your support and guidance throughout all this.
Thank you
Thank
all
you,
for
Jeff.
your work.
Okay, that concludes our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
I'll
a
make a
motion to adjourn.
Okay, I hear a motion, and that was a second also. Is that correct?
Yep.
To adjourn our meeting? All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. Thank you, board members, and have a good evening.